Borrow you, Mr. Pants. All right, so one of the biggest problems in Kung Fu is fighting force with force. Meaning, when you, if what as a guard up, is that when you make contact with the person, your muscular system wants to tense up and push against them, right? It's very common, especially when you start doing sticky hands. People will find that their shoulders and their back and parts of the body will start to push and force, and you'll get tired and tense, right? So that's the kind of one of the biggest problems that we come across in training. My body is fighting force with force, it's meeting resistance with more resistance, it's tensing up. So the question becomes is, how do we prevent that? How do we stop fighting force with force, right? This is a question that I've been pondering for a while, is how do I help you guys to get better at releasing force under pressure? So first thing, we must have a belief that you can. Yeah, so that's, in your mind, you must go, okay, I can move without force. I can move from a state of power, right? So the very simple way to know that you can is to know that your bone structure doesn't deliver force the same way your muscles do, right? So we can all agree that, for example, if Ward puts his arm up like this, that I can put pressure down through his arm and into his stance and spine. I can put a lot of weight on that, and it doesn't require much force. Why? Because it's feeding down through his skeleton. Does that make sense? So what I'm getting at here is that we know that the human structure can take in a lot of force without reacting with strength, because you didn't see Ward's muscles all flex and get tight then, did you? He just stood there kind of like he was doing nothing, right? So that means he can do the same thing from here. He can center in his intention. Now this is important. Centering is like, it's the spine, but centering your intention means you start to infuse the mind into the spine. Mind, more importantly, spirit. So you infuse the mind into the spine, which gives it an aliveness. Then he senses his structure. So he senses his center, he senses his structure. Now, in this static position, I can start to put pressure into Ward's system, and you see he doesn't require force to resist me, right? In a nice, static, easy position. That's a good thing, right? So you know, oh, I can move without using force, right? You're aware that your bone structure can do it. Great. Number one tick. So what I'm getting at is, you guys need to actually believe you can. That's the first step. And that's a very simple way to know that you can. My structure can deliver, can take the force. But then we need to apply it, right? Meaning, it's one thing in this comfortable position, when you've got a good awareness of your center and your structure, right? But how do we then apply it when we're now punching and moving and someone's trying to punch you in the face, right? When all this stuff happens, how do you continue to apply it under that pressure, right? So today's exercises are going to be working on giving you the experience to maintain that sense of release while applying pressure. And we're going to do it from Tan to Bong, so the movement from Tan to Bong, but also movement of Fuk Sao. So we're going to play around with the Chi Sao shapes, because they're the foundational structures that we use for our defensive shield as Wing Chun practitioners, okay? So the way we're going to start off is we're going to start off simply with strength and structure. We've all done strength, structure, state exercises, right? So what we're going to do is your partner's going to just hold out like a tight arm, and you're going to work on using your Tan Sao movement to start. And as I do my Tan Sao, I'm going to first go, okay, muscular strength against his arm. And I want to feel how that feels in my system. As I do it, I feel a tightness here. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to do the same thing again, but now I'm going to think, okay, center and sense my structure here and feel how that feels. And now I feel already there's much less tension. Yeah. So I know this is an exercise you guys have done already, right? You think, oh, this is the same thing, but it's slightly different, very slightly. Why? Because I want you to notice what's happening in your system on the contact point. If you can't notice it doing it at this speed, then what I would like you to do is slow it down. So I'd like you to slow down and notice, okay, yeah, I can sense that it's tightening up. Oh, that's right, it doesn't need to. How do I do that? I go into my structure and continue to move. And now I feel, oh, okay, I'm not. Because what we're trying to do, guys, is we're trying to change the way your body reacts on contact. Get it? This is one of the hardest things for me as a teacher to communicate to you, but for you guys as students to develop, right? So the first stage is we're just going to do strength against it. You can even start from contact and go strength and then, okay, I'm going to center and sense. So what does that mean? That means you're putting the sensing into your skeletal frame. And as you center and sense, that activates the unification of structure, right? So let's go a little bit deeper. When I center and I sense, what I want the muscles to do is release. So we're actually going to add sinking into structure, yeah? Meaning my muscular system does this, it lets go. And it's the structural system, so I muscular force, activate my structure, and then sink through the muscular system as I move. And I don't feel that same activity in my system. This is quite a fine experiential exercise, so play around with it. Do slow strength and then structure, but the way I want you to use structure today is center in your intention, sense the structure, and sink and release as you move, yeah? And then we're going to build on this exercise, yeah? So do it slowly a few times, and then you can do it faster, feeling how it feels with muscle force, centering my structure, sinking, and then do it with structural force, yeah? Make sense? All right, 1, 2. That's a trick. This is a tricky thing we're working with, to train your mind and your body to not fight force with force, right? So this is what we're aiming at today. I observed when I was looking around, some of you were getting it, and a lot of you weren't. So let's make this easier. So rather than doing it against a solid limb, your partner, so if Ward's doing the exercise, is just going to put their hand half a centimeter away from your arm. So I'm going to put my hand like close to his wrist and forearm, like I'm about to hold his wrist, yeah? So that I'm not actually touching. So he's just outside of the actual contact. Now in this same regard, he's going to start to consciously use his muscle force as he moves towards me, yeah, and then feel how it feels in his system, yeah? Okay, now Ward's like, okay, that's my muscles. He wants his muscles to release. That's why I'm saying I bring the sinking into that. He centers and senses his structure, which unifies the structure. I stay outside, just outside of range. Then as he slowly moves in towards me, he maintains structure and sinking and tries to notice, okay, is there any parts of my system that are fighting on the contact? Can I maintain a sense of release? So as he slowly, yeah, like this, yeah, that's better than the last one, yeah. You want your body to be trained to release force on contact. Yeah, so I think this will be a lot easier because there's a solid platform, whereas when you were doing it against that limb there wasn't enough pressure to be tested against. So your hand is like this, like just about to hold. Ward goes with force first, just to feel, okay, that's what's for, and he feels it in his system. Now he centers and senses to unify the structure. When you center and sense, you're utilizing the different types of energy already. Because you sense the center with the sensing energy. You sense the structure with sensing. It's called sensing energy, which allows you to sense it. So training structure actually trains the state, sort of. You're in that direction, right? So he centers and senses his structure. So now he's skeleton Ward. Like who's seen He-Man? You know Skeletor? Yeah. And then as he moves, he keeps sinking, so that his body is training to, like this, training to release pressure against a release force against force, so that the incoming pressure goes this way. If you were watching closely, you would have seen it was like Ward's feet started going to the floor. Get the idea? I think this will be better. All right, 1, 2. All right, how'd you guys go with that? Was that easier? Look, this isn't an easy task, you know. This is the real internal work. How do you not fight force with force? And this not only has a physical representation in combat and your Kung Fu training, there's also an emotional and mental representation within yourself and with others. Like meaning, you know, when your wife's nagging and being, you know, a bit of a pain or whatever, like do you fight that force with force? I'm serious, because if you stay in a loving, compassionate, empathic condition and say, oh, it's okay, she's probably had a hard day, and be understanding, you'll find that force dissolves. And then she gives you a hug. Whereas if you're like, fuck you, bitch, cook me some food. Then she's gonna, you know, then of course you're meeting force with force, and it's gonna, you see what I'm getting at? It creates more tension, is what I'm saying. So this physical skill that you're looking to develop has an emotional and mental relevance as well. So let's take it a little bit further, yeah? So we started, you were working with consciously using muscle force, right? And you were pressing with your muscles to do your tan xiao, yeah? And then you were like, okay, now I'm going to sense my structure. So you're using the sensing energy, and I'm also going to sync. Yeah, I'm not going to let muscles activate as I do the movement. Yeah, so now I can feel it's traveling through structure. Fantastic. That's good if you have that awareness of it, right? Now, a faster gateway, which I'd like you to play with, and this one is a little bit etheric, so it might be a bit tricky for some of you, is to use your spiritual intention now. Meaning, align your center with that good feeling quality. Peace, joy, power, love, prosperity, freedom, expansion, creativity, whatever. It's up to you, yeah? Get into that. Reason why Ward can do it quite easy, because he already has a good spiritual intention. He's already centered, he's already infused the spirit. In Kung Fu, they say the infusion of the spirit, right, is when you get the center infused with an upward quality. Meaning, whenever you put your focus in your center, from tail to crown, you notice your emotional condition gets a little bit better or a lot better. Meaning, if you're in a really shitty mood, it might just get a little better. Right? If you're in a good mood and you put it there, it will get a lot better. See what I'm getting at? So it doesn't mean you're just going to be enlightened whenever you put your focus on your center. It just means that you'll get an upward emotional quality. Make sense? So this is the infusion of the spirit you're looking for, right? So that when you put your focus in your center, you get a good feeling quality, right? So now, why is that important? Thank you for being patient. You can take a break. Why is that important? Because we're looking to not fight force with force. If we're not going to fight force with force, we have to use something else. Power. You're using your non-physical self via the mind, the intention, and the energy to use power against force. Because power absorbs force. Just like when you're compassionate with your wife, it absorbs the force and resistance you're feeling, as opposed to when you meet it with force. Yeah, you get the idea. So, what am I getting at? Now I would like you to try that as well, meaning link into your highest intention as the third way, yeah? So first, Wardo Pants uses his muscular system as he moves through there and feels what that feels like in his body. Then he centers and senses, so he gets a good feeling in his structure, sinks down as he moves, yeah? Already he's kind of doing it, yeah? Yeah? And now just focus purely, softly draw up and get that good feeling quality in the center. Don't stress about it, don't force it. It's already in there somewhere because you can feel it, right? Get that good feeling quality and aim it at their center. So I'm talking power plane for you guys who've been training for a while. Get the power plane on and move from there, yeah? Move from the power plane, yeah? Yeah? That's good, but you can do it better. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. He smiles too much, doesn't he? Just feels good. So what am I getting at? You're trying to. What I'm asking you guys to do is to make a shift from force to power. This is the fastest way. The fastest shifts I've seen with any of the students I've taught over the last 2 decades is when they make paradigm shifts. For example, to get the infusion of the spirit in the center seems linked to one important belief, that you are responsible for your emotional condition. That's it. If you take full responsibility for your emotional and mental condition, that seems to be linked to the infusion of the spirit. Because I've had students that have come along and they complain and blame everything. But once they, not pointing any fingers, but but once they take that responsibility, there's a shift in their ability to generate power. That's what we call the infusion of the spirit. You've taken responsibility for your emotional level. You're taken, and they call it the line of integrity in the Dr. Hawkins teaching. You go from force, victim mindset to a powerful, creative mindset. I know there's a lot of theory and woo-woo talk today, but it's important. Because if you can overcome the urge to fight force with force, your skill will skyrocket. Because firstly you have like an unlimited amount of energy. Like when you're chi sowing, you're not like because you're using a lot of force. You're just in your structure and it's empty. You just aim into it and it just feels effortless to keep it on. There's no requirement for effort. So the third way, force, center and sense. So structure and sinking, yeah, and then highest intent. Because highest intent, your most elevated, directed upward level of consciousness is the real power. Yeah, spirit, mind is much more powerful than the body. How do you know that? Because if you don't have a mind, you're dead, right? Comatose. So water stays in his spiritual intention, he stays nice and he infuses that in the center. He aims it at my center, and then he moves from there. And if you see, his system's not tensing up. That's what we're looking for. Okay? So that's the fastest gateway, but you need to understand it's possible. That's why we start from structure first, because you're like, okay, yep, structure, I can believe that, right? But when we talk about consciousness and mind and intention, people can get a bit like, oh, it's airy fairy talk. But trust me, you do have a mind, I promise, that does influence your emotional condition. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. And we are conscious beings, which we can raise our level of consciousness. Make sense? Alrighty. Strength, structure with syncing, highest intention through the power plane. 1, 2, let's go. All right. So we'll finish this off with one final exercise. Han when I was working with Han, I got the feeling for it. So Han was doing it quite well, actually. He was getting a good feeling. And what it seemed like was that when Han stayed in his power, he didn't need to use force. Maybe I'll borrow Han, actually, because he was doing it. Is that right? Mr. Handman.
No, I can do it.
You're fired.
You're fired.
So, did we do both hands, or were we
Both
doing?
hands.
Yeah, we're doing both. Yeah, fancy. Anyway, so he was doing quite well, and then my suggestion was, Mr. Handman, make sure you extend the spine up nice and tall and get that good feeling in your center. And then so nice and tall, good feeling in the center, and then he moves. And already, this feels quite good, right? Feels quite powerful. And he wasn't resorting to fighting force. And the realization was that Han stays in his power, and then he doesn't need to use force. So Mr. Handman stays in his center, thinks about going to be getting later, yeah, and he does it quite well. So the whole idea is that stay in your power, stay centered in your intention, stay focused on the power plane. He stays in there. Then he doesn't. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and he doesn't need to use force. That's the whole idea. So when everything's going, all the punches are coming at you, you stay in here. Get the idea? Stay in your center, elevated in your awareness. So infuse the spirit in the center, and then point it at the other person. Captain Waterpants, he was talking about how he gets like a sense, when he focuses at the end of the power plane, he gets a sense of this activating. That's good. That's what you want. That means the power plane's on. That means you're directing the flow of intention and energy from the center to the target, yeah? From here through to here. So Mr. Handman thinks gonna make, yeah, which makes him happy, see? Alrighty, so make it simple, play with that. So I don't have to fight force with force. I don't have to fight there, yeah? I stay centered in my intention, and I stay in my power as I move, so it doesn't require me to fight him. You don't have to fight force with force. This is what I'm trying to communicate to you. So stop it. Stay in your power. Stay centered in your intention. If you notice anything, any force coming up, what do we do? What's our method? Oh, I'm noticing I'm fighting force with force. Oh, that's right, I let go. Oh, you guys have heard of letting go and sinking, right? So you've got that tool at your disposal to be able to sink and release when you do notice it. But the key and the gateway is you do it from power. Meaning, if I'm noticing force as I'm meeting intention building in my system, right? But I'm not aware in my center and I'm trying to sink, it's not really working. There's a level of sinkiness, but if I can, even if I keep this collapsed spinal structure, but I put the infusion of the spirit into my center, now I move, the sinkiness activates. So what am I getting at? You've got to be in your power while you're sinking. Make sense? Because then you're giving it the command from the center. Alrighty, play with that last one. Just stay in your, so I just want you to think, I'm staying in my power as I move. I'm staying in my power as I move. I'm staying in my power as I move. I don't need to fight force with force. I'm staying in my power as I move. So you'll feel their contact, but you won't notice resistance in your system pushing towards the contact and towards them. Make sense? All right, last one. 1, 2.